Hey there, greetings everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Plan B Success. We have Joe Lucey today from Minneapolis. Now, Joe is the founder and CEO of Secured Retirement Financial, where he works in providing retirement guidance, retirement solutions, and helps you plan your retirement. That's what Joe does. So he's a certified financial planner, he's a registered financial consultant, an investment advisor representative, different kinds of certifications that he has. So let's welcome Joe and then we'll get started. So Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rajiv.
Absolutely, our pleasure. So in your words, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've got a financial planning firm that's out of Minneapolis, Minnesota here, mostly upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, North, South Dakota, Iowa. A team of 15 of us out here, and we focus primarily on families in and near retirement. So really families and business owners that are 50 and older and looking for a graceful retirement.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about where you started. Before you got into all this and your firm, what was your career path like?
I'm going to go back even a little further. At 13, they had to bring join a parent for school day, and my dad was an engineer. I didn't think that sounded like a whole lot of fun, but I had a neighbor that was a financial stockbroker, and he invited me along to go to his office. And at 13 years old, this is in the early 80s, I was pretty enthralled with everything that was going on there, tickers and computers. I mean, this is before everybody had a computer on their desk and what have you. So I decided at that point, this is the career path I wanted to go. Graduating high school, the movie Wall Street, Norman Gecko and all that, I thought I was going to be this wheeler dealer on the New York Stock Exchange and everything else. But then in my before graduation, my folks and me, there were some rifts. I was the smartest 18-year-old in the household, much smarter than my parents, of course, and kind of ran away from home and joined the Marine Corps. So instead of going straight into college after high school, I joined the Marine Corps. I spent 6 years there. And it wasn't until after I got out of the service that I kind of came back to the financial planning and fell into it because I was a bartender. And there was a few stockbrokers that would come in the bar every day at a little after 3 o'clock Central Time, right after the markets would close. And they had their happy hour for a couple of days, and I thought that was pretty amazing that they were able to do that. And so I decided I wanted to get a job as a stockbroker. I ended up convincing one of them to give me a chance to work for him, and that meant I got to open up the phone book every day and start making phone calls out of the phone book looking for clients for him. And what ended up happening one day is at 3 o'clock, he went off to do his daily routine at the happy hour. And I ended up finding a gentleman that wanted to open an account. Well, wanted to take advantage of the opportunity. So I opened the account and the next day when I told him that he had this transaction he had to make for this new customer that I'd created, he got upset because I wasn't licensed. I wasn't supposed to be doing this, giving financial advice. So he fired me. And so 2 weeks into it, I guess I was doing a pretty good job. I was opening accounts, but I got fired. As I was walking out the door, the branch manager said, "Where am I going?" I said, "I just got fired." And he said, "Well, I'll give you a job. You just have to get licensed." So I went through the licensing process, and I guess short and sweet, that's how I got into this. I started off as a stockbroker. We worked for a small brokerage firm in the Midwest here that did a lot of more small cap investments, kind of, I don't want to call it investment like IPOs and things like that, but we weren't an investing banking firm, but that's what we did. We bought a lot of stocks at $2 or $5 thinking they were going to go to 20, and some did, most didn't. And that's what I did until 2001, when I realized that a lot of people got hurt by that kind of investing philosophy. So that's when I kind of committed to kind of going through a more planning approach, looking beyond just the wealth accumulation and looking at things like taxes and how to create an income plan. I started to learn more about Social Security and bringing in more of a comprehensive approach to the planning than just kind of more speculation and high risk investments that we hope we're going to work out. So I guess in a nutshell, that's the last 27 years or so of me doing this.
Wow. So when did you truly get into the retirement practice?
Oh, I mean, I guess that you would say that when I first got started in 1994, that I worked with retirees, but I had also worked with pretty much anybody that would work with us. It wasn't until after 2000, 2002, that recession, that I really started to focus on more of a specific niche of working with families over age 50 and bringing in more of a planning approach to to my process and how we helped families transition into retirement.
What do you believe is the right time or the right age for somebody to be even thinking about retirement and to enlist the services of somebody like you?
That's a complicated question, because I think that it really depends on a lot of different factors. But I think everybody, regardless of whether you're using a financial advisor or a planner or consulting somebody to help you through the process, or if you're doing it on your own, the easiest answer to say is that everybody should start thinking about retirement planning from probably the time they get their very first paycheck, whether that's in high school or, after graduation of college or whatever that is. With that said, if somebody hasn't started to do any financial planning and you're a little closer to retirement, well, the best time to plant a tree is today if you haven't planted it 10 years ago. So the sooner you get to plant the tree, the better the results are going to be, or the easier it is. When do you start needing results? I think that, for the most part, earlier in your career, when you're in your 30s or 40s and maybe even early 50s, the name of the retirement planning game is really just how do you accumulate assets? How do you get more money into these accounts? How do you increase your net worth? And it isn't until you're within what I call the golden decade, that 10 years before your retirement, that you should start considering other factors about how to bring that money back, how to make it tax efficient, how to make sure it's going to last a lifetime. If you're going to retire at 65, by the age of 55, you need to start looking at more than just the wealth accumulation, but really how do we start to tie together plans or strategies like tax planning and income planning, putting together a strategy on how to take Social Security, whether you're going to be somebody that's going to take it right away or somebody that might retire, spend down some of the other resources to bridge out to a higher Social Security benefit before you take Social Security. I guess the answer to the question is sometime within about 10 years of retirement. I think it's a good idea to at least get some consultation with somebody that's going to be looking at things more comprehensively than just the wealth accumulation, whether or not you're buying this stock or that stock. A lot of families have done a fairly good job of, with today's society, there's a whole lot of research out there that you can get through, Fidelity or Charles Schwab or any of these other firms, where you can do it on your own, and many people can do it very well. But it's really when you start looking at some of these areas that take a little bit more concentration, you can't just read an article and figure out how to take the best Social Security approach for you and your family. That's the time to start thinking about trying to bring on some additional help.
I think when you look at our regular schooling system as such, right, there's not a lot of emphasis put on personal finances. There's not a lot that's taught up front when you are still in school. And then once you get into a job, you're so focused on whatever the job that you might be doing that you're trying to find your way and build your career, start taking those next steps in terms of promotions and all that. There's a vacuum in terms of those personal finance education. What's your take on that?
Well, I do think we need to do more about personal education, and I agree with what you've been saying 100%. Even me and my family, I'm in the service. I wasn't making a whole lot of money. Any kind of money that went towards retirement planning was really a sacrifice over something else I could have been doing better with that money, whether it was buying a better car or taking the family on vacations, whatever that is. And it's usually earlier in your career that it's a little harder to do that. I always tell I have nieces and nephews who are all graduating college, and I say, the number one thing is to make sure that you aren't retiring with a ton of debt, because once you've got that mountain there, you got to get over that mountain before you can really start to set aside for your future. So, staying out of debt's a good idea, but we don't do a good job of helping families with some of these decisions. Nobody really sits you down, and my high school anyways didn't have any kind of class on what to start thinking about before you make investments. Even a discussion about setting aside money in the 401k and how that works. It's amazing to me how many younger folks, but even more so families getting ready to retirement, that really don't even understand this mechanism that they've been investing in called the 401k, because it was the somebody from the HR department that said, here's this thing and start putting it aside, but they really have very little knowledge about how the tool even works.
When you look at somebody who's trying to build wealth, right? So, people are so focused on whatever their daily jobs are, they don't have time to take away and build this expertise on the side where they can say, okay, I got to build wealth, or I got to have a good retirement, and this is what I got to do. And that's where, they tend to depend on others, hopefully, in order to get some guidance and advice. And then there's a lot of other people that are actually scared to reach out to somebody else to ask the question. Like, people are scared to reach out to, for instance, lawyers, when they have an issue. As far as possible, they'd like to flow under the radar. So is there any kind of proactive reach out in terms of, certified financial analysts or people like you who are actually reaching out to educate them or make them comfortable before even getting the clients in?
Well, yeah, and I'm a certified financial planner, but we spend a lot of time. I'm in the trying to do a lot of outreach, trying to give information and education away. A lot of what we've been doing is a little bit more regionalized here in the upper Midwest. And I know that there's a lot of information. I mean, it probably wouldn't take that long to Google certain things and find numerous different reports. The problem is, it doesn't take an expert necessarily to do a YouTube video. And unfortunately, a lot of the information out there is not based on either complete information or really good accurate information. Tax planning is probably one of those areas that I think is really hard to find good advice. A lot of times we think of our CPAs, our certified public accountants, our enrolled agents, or even the tax prep, or relying on TurboTax, to do your tax returns for you. And we go through this process of tax preparation, happens somewhere between January 1st and April 15th, generally of every year. But doing real tax planning, looking forward and seeing how your tax rates are going to change over time, looking at how different kinds of income are going to hit your tax return, going through the options of what to do with that, that's a little bit more challenging. So that's one of the reasons actually that we're in the process of releasing our new book, which is called The New Tax Secrets, that'll be out here later this month, and helping families identify maybe 10 different areas that they could be looking at or going through, like a checklist, like a pilot would do before they take off. Is this an area I need to explore a little deeper? And maybe identify some areas that you might want to look for more professional advice, or spend some energy educating yourself on.
When somebody's actually looking to retire, most of your life as an employee or even a business person, you're basically in the process of building wealth, right? So you invest in different kinds of assets, for instance, let's say real estate and all that, with the hope that someday it's going to really grow, and then you still have this debt that you're paying towards it, and hopefully someday you sell and you come out on the tops. That's what a lot of people bank their retirement on. How important is liquidity in this whole arrangement of retirement?
Well, we have different methods of liquidity. If you think about the money that's going into your retirement accounts in your 40s, by design, that money that's going in your 40s, you've kind of already decided you're not going to have very liquid until 59 and a half, when you can take that out without a 10% penalty. So a lot of times as somebody is transitioning retirement, they think of these assets as having to be fully available. But hypothetically, if I had $1 million in my retirement account and I only need 50,000 of a year to have a comfortable retirement, to have a full $1 million available may not make the most sense. We may want to think of breaking this into buckets, money that you need earlier in retirement that has to be fully available, but trade-off is going to be maybe either lack of returns because interest rates are not very good, or you're going to have to take more risk with the stock market with money that you might actually need to spend and can be problematic, and money that's more midterm. How much risk do I need with this? Maybe I don't need it all, but if I had access to 10 or 20% at any one time, that's okay, knowing that the rest of it can get better returns. And then the money that's for more wealth accumulation that if the market has a correction, I don't plan on spending. I'm going to let it recover. So we're having different kinds of buckets of money, different levels of liquidity. You said something there a second ago about families that go through this process of trying to pay down debt. There's smart debt and not such good debt. When I graduate, if I buy a building using the low interest rates to use that for leverage can make some sense. But if I'm piling a bunch of stuff on credit cards that are going to take me years and years and years of paying off, that represents a sacrifice that hopefully not too many of your listeners are doing, because we want to make sure that, if you got credit card debt, that should be your number one priority. Get that stuff paid down, use debt wisely. And then once you get through some of that, make sure you look at those retirement accounts. They all represent a certain amount of debt. We don't even know what the payments are going to be on them, because the money that comes out of these has to be taxed, and they're going to be taxed at rates that are going to be set somewhere down the road after Congress or Washington, D.C. gets done with everything. How much of my IRA do I have to pay towards Uncle Sam? And do I start to pay that debt off now, or do I pay it off over time? It really is a little bit more complicated than just saying what's the easiest way to do this. It really needs to be tailored to a specific situation, your own utilization. If you're a business owner, having a little bit of debt for the business can make a lot more sense. But if I'm a consumer and I'm just taking out loans to try to buy a new BMW every 3 years, maybe think about getting to a point where you can purchase that BMW without the note would be a better situation for you.
When it comes to tax planning, I think one question that's top of mind for a lot of people is, when you look at the billionaires or the Amazons of the world, and when you hear about how they hardly pay any taxes and the tax strategies that they capitalize on, what's available for the common man in order to do something similar to ensure that their tax rates are the lowest as well?
Keep in mind, I'm a certified financial planner. I'm not a CPA. I don't interpret tax code. And neither do some of the strategies we talk about in my book. I'm not interpreting tax code. There are some advantages to owning real estate as far as depreciation and certain other assets which I can depreciate. There's also avoiding things like phantom taxes, paying tax on money that you don't recognize a gain on. Avoiding, maybe having your investments in the right kinds of tax buckets. Meaning that money that's more aggressively managed, maybe you want to keep that into a brokerage type account versus an IRA account, instead of trying to grow an IRA that's only increasing the amount of debt that you're going to owe the IRS someday, because a portion of that all has to be taxed. Maybe putting that into an account that if there's a loss, you can write that loss off, so that you can take advantage of that. If I lose money in a Roth IRA, for example, you get zero benefit of that, and trying to take advantage of some of that. One of the areas that we talk about in our book that I really see a lot of the wealthy using, that I see a lot of us as, middle class, maybe not taking advantage of, is just making sure that if you are doing any kind of charitable gifting, if you're giving money to the church or, the synagogue or the local zoo, whatever that is, whatever your charity is, not being able to take advantage of the tax benefits that can entail is a lost opportunity. So sometimes it's really sitting down with families and saying, here's the better way to support some of the charitable things you're doing. And that's the advantage that the wealthy have. They have tax folks that are working with them throughout every month and going through this with them. Many of us have got a tax preparation person, but we really only visit with them for an hour or two every year. And by the time everything's done, it's all, looking at things in the rearview mirror. That's why it's so important to look at taxes and forward looking. What are some things I can do today to reduce taxes somewhere down the road? And how do I do that, smart and astute and taking advantage of, like you said, some of these benefits that the wealthy are using that many of us just don't have that professional advice to take advantage of ourselves.
In terms of cryptocurrencies, how central do you think are they today to any retirement strategy?
I think that the technology behind cryptocurrency is going to be here to stay. I even think that some of these cryptocurrencies are going to probably do very well over time. I own I own $5 of cryptocurrency because I opened up a free account at Coinbase.com. They gave me $5. I have not been investing in it. I don't like investing in things which I can't try to calculate what my downside is first. I usually look at what the downside is and then let the upside take care of itself versus, what's the speculative upside, knowing that I could lose it all. I also, I think that a lot of the things that we've been told are some of the advantages of cryptocurrency, untraceable and some of these other things. Well, we just saw with the hostage situation of the oil pipeline there that they're able to get some of this back. So somebody's tracking it. So I think that, I don't discourage clients from owning it. I think that there's a lot of people that are going to do very well with some of the cryptocurrencies. The problem is that I don't know when to buy it, when to sell it. There's nothing to really gauge it on. And so I've kind of avoided it personally. I guess if you're answering it for somebody else, I think anytime you start putting over 10% in any one investment, you start to overconcentrate. That can create some problems. Don't tell that to Bill Gates. He did just fine with Microsoft stock, but for the average consumer, the average American, over concentration in any one investment, whether it's the S&P 500 or cryptocurrency, can start to create some problems.
Absolutely. So, Joe, tell us more about your book.
Well, I put the book together because when I first got started in the industry, like I said, I worked with a lot of investors that, were looking, it was all tea at high, let it fly type stuff. We were looking at small companies that were going to become the next Microsoft. None of them really became that kind of company. Many of them did very well, and a lot of them didn't. But there wasn't a whole lot of focus on what I see to be the largest expense for the average American over their lifetime, and that's the taxes that we pay. My branch manager, there was a compliance issue if we started going through taxes, and through our plan B here, which started off with these small brokerage firms and turning into more of a comprehensive planning firm that works just with retirees. Part of that I had to self-learn. We had to figure out how to help families put themselves in a better situation for retirement. Most people think of their financial advisor as wealth accumulation only. Most of my clients tell me that what they come to us for is helping them create an income plan that's going to last a lifetime so that they don't have to sacrifice on their lifestyle. Number two, how do I reduce taxes, do things tax efficiently? And the third thing is grow the wealth, but those first two are most important to them. So through this process, we started to identify 10 different areas that I just see most families are ignoring in their retirement planning. 10 different specific tax areas that I think everybody should really be considering on how to help put themselves in a better situation. So we came out with the new tax secrets. It's going to be released here early part of July and 2021 here. And I think everybody can benefit from it. It's a fairly easy read. I didn't want to make it a textbook. I wanted to make it something that everybody could get some value out of. And then from that, reach out to somebody that can help you do that. Or many families, I'm sure, that are listening to this podcast are going to do very well implementing these on their own. And
this is the Retirees Social Security Guide?
No, that's another book I wrote. That's another one. It's a little outdated as far as some of the tax code. The Retirees Social Security Guide is a book that I wrote in 2018. So now with the tax law changes, that's a book for anybody that's looking at how to create what I call mailbox income or enhance their mailbox income. Mailbox income is money that hits the checkbook in retirement each and every month without worrying what's going on in your 401k balance. So things like Social Security or pensions that are in the account every month, how to optimize that. I see way too many families making mistakes around how to take their Social Security. In fact, Forbes recently had an article where they talked about 96% of Americans are not timing their Social Security properly and leaving over $111,000 on the table of money that was rightfully theirs. So Social Security and the Retiree's Guide to Social Security is about how to wring out every nickel you can out of Social Security and make sure you're optimizing for that for you and your family.
So your current book, what is it called and where can people find it?
Well, it's going to be available on all the, the Amazons and what have you. It's going to be called the New Tax Secrets. And if you go to newtaxsecrets.com, you can pre-register or request some information. We'll make sure that we make sure everybody has access to the book when it becomes available. Or again, just keep an eye on Amazon and Google Joe Lucey and New Tax Secrets. I'm sure you'll find it.
All right. And you also have a radio show, right? The Secured Retirement Hour?
Yeah, it's a Secured Retirement Radio. It's out of Minneapolis here. We're on one of the iHeart stations out here, Twin Cities News Talk, AM 1130. It's also replayed on FM 103.2 or 103.1. But I've been doing that now for about 12 years. And we broadcast right in the Minneapolis market, and we focus on those areas around those things that I've been talking about here. It's, for me, as I transition into retirement, as I get into retirement, whether that transition starts at 50 or 60 or 70, it's important to start thinking about your wealth planning a little bit different. It's no longer just about the net worth statement. It's how do I take this net worth statement and turn it into income so I can spend in confidence? And how do I do so tax efficiently, making sure it's not going to last a lifetime? And then growing the wealth is always nice, but let's make sure we're focusing on what's most important, which is different than when you're in your 30s or 40s.
Absolutely. So for people that want to reach you, what's the best way to contact you?
Probably the best way to reach out to us would be just to email. Email me at info@securedretirements.com. Secured is SECURED, and retirements has an S. RETIREMENTS. So secured past tense, retirementsplural.com. Just send it to info@securedretirements.com.
Awesome. And in order to find more information in terms of your services, what's your website?
Again, securedretirements.com, the same as the email, but just go to securedretirements.com. That might even be the easiest way to reach out to us. I know that we have ways to contact us that way too.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing, your perspective in terms of retirement strategies and the work that you've done over the years. We look forward to your book and we wish you the very best as you move on.
Rajiv, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you and your listeners here, and wish you the best of luck, and hopefully everybody gets a copy of the newtaxsecrets.com that'll be coming out here in July.
All right. Thank you very much.
You bet. Bye-bye.